And that has me thinking, after all of these practices, 2 weeks of these practices, what do I think of this team? What are the great parts of this team, the good parts of this team, and then the flat out bad parts of this team? Well, let's talk about it. Hey, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell so you'll be notified when I upload a ton of Browns/AFC North/NFL content coming out. So if you don't want to miss a single thing as the NFL season is fast approaching, less than 10 days from now, we will have an actual NFL game. So if you want content while we're waiting for that to happen, while all of that's ramping up, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're notified so you don't miss a single thing. So the Browns camp has been an interesting one. There's been some good things, there's been some bad things, there's been some awful things, there's been some great things. So what I'm going to do is organize all of those things and take what I've learned from 13 days of Browns camp and break them into the great, the good, and the bad. So let's go first with the great. There have been 3 great things about this Browns training camp. 3 things that I think are going to end up being great indicators on what the Browns offense is going to look like. And these are 3 things that are all on the offense. The first thing is Kareem Hunt. This looks like the dream of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb in that backfield that we thought we were going to get last year. And we got flashes of it last year, but we never consistently got it. This looks like it's going to be what we hoped it'd be. Kareem Hunt looks fantastic. Like, he looks explosive. I'm telling you, Kareem Hunt has been one of those players in camp that has consistently looked spectacular. When Nick Chubb was out for the concussion protocol early in camp, you didn't really miss anything because Kareem Hunt was dominating. He was faster than everybody. He was more athletic than everybody. If Kareem Hunt were your only running back room, you'd have one of the better running back rooms in the NFL. The fact that he's the number 2 running back for the Cleveland Browns says a lot. But again, that's the first great thing. Kareem Hunt, he's been excellent throughout camp. I really think we're going to see some great things out of Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt's going to be a massive factor in what the Browns are going to do because he's looked that good. Like, this looks like Kareem Hunt that led the league in rushing yards a couple of years ago. He looks like he's back in that form, and I'm excited to see what that means, especially since he's paired up with Nick Chubb. And the other thing that's been great about camp is Nick Chubb. These two, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, are the 2 players you could not afford to either lose or afford to have a kind of a step back during camp. These 2 players needed to be excellent in this time period, and these 2 players have been excellent. Nick Chubb has been excellent. He looks like he has his burst still. He looks quick, fleet of foot, great vision. Looks like he's adapting to the zone scheme pretty well, finding his spaces, still being creative with his cuts, still being quick, still being fast. And again, this is all without really full contact. And we all know what Nick Chubb does when full contact's there. And again, one thing Browns fans should keep in mind, as much as people are worried about how the offense is going to look early on, the main thing and one of the only things that we have seen since camps have been shortened down due to CBAs throughout the last, 5 or 6 years, the one thing we've seen tangible that shows that less practice time equals bad this. A lot of people are assuming less practice time is going to equal bad offense or bad passing game, and there's reason to believe that. But the one thing we know for a fact, less practice time, less live tackling time, it results in is bad tackling. And that's what you're going to see a ton of early on in the season. Now, what kind of offenses can take advantage of bad tackling the most? I'll tell you one offense I'm pretty confident can take advantage of that, an offense that starts Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, because Kareem Hunt's elusive. He's not an easy guy to take down by any means, and Nick Chubb might be the hardest running back to tackle in the NFL when all things are equal, let alone in a situation like this where tackling might be bad for an extended period of time. Because one, yeah, there's been the lack of practices, which has been one thing, but the lack of physicality at a lot of these practices is going to be a huge factor when it comes to tackling. So again, the Browns being able to run the ball with those 2 stallions is going to be a massive massive deal. And it's a massive deal that those two players have looked like the best two players on the offense with the exception of one person. That's a huge deal for the Cleveland Browns. And I think that's going to be something that will win them games early on and keep them in the conversation early on if the offense does struggle with all the new things that they're picking up. But the crutch that they have with this running game is a massive one, and it's one that is going to be dearly needed throughout the season. And these two players throughout camp have looked excellent. It doesn't look like you're going to miss anything with those two players. So if there's one room overall that the Browns can hang their hat on, it's the running back room. But if there's one player that Browns fans should have more optimism about looking as advertised, as Odell Beckham Jr., a phenomenal camp for Odell Beckham Jr. Remember last year he had an up and down camp, had his moments, didn't have his moments, and didn't practice a lot throughout there. He was kind of had an injury-riddled camp, and that kind of continued on to the season. He never found his rhythm. He never really looked comfortable. It always seemed like a work in progress throughout all of 2019 with Odell, and he didn't look like Odell Beckham Jr. enough. He looked like a good receiver at times, but not Odell Beckham Jr. Throughout camp, Odell's looked comfortable. He's looked very athletic, very fast. He's been having fun, and he's looked like Odell. Like he's fit. When you see him on the field, you know for a fact that's a superstar wide receiver, running good routes, getting open, finding chemistry with Baker Mayfield, getting to Baker Mayfield on scrambled drills. He has the burst. He's athletic. He's jumping. He's running. He's having fun. Like these are all things we did not see all of 2019 that we're excited to see and hope translate to the regular season. But if there's three players to feel really great about, if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, it starts nowhere else than Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and Odell Beckham. That's the great thing about this camp. That's what you wanted to see. That's one of the best things about this camp is that you have three star players on offense, and all three of those star players have looked like star players throughout camp, and you can't ask for anything more than that. Now let's talk about the good of camp. The first thing that's been good about this camp is something I didn't expect. I have to put BJ Goodson and Taki on here, because there's been a lot of criticism by myself about this linebacking room. There was a lot of question marks, especially after Mack Wilson went down. Thankfully, we found out that Mack Wilson won't be injured as long, so that's a huge factor when it comes to depth here. But BJ Goodson and Sione Taki, quite frankly, have looked fine throughout camp. Both of these players who are not known for their coverage skills have made plays in coverage, have been able to get out there and been serviceable in that area and make plays in space. Taki has looked like he's taking a step. BJ Goodson looks like he's a good fit for that middle linebacker kind of conductor type role, that veteran role. I didn't think that would happen. I didn't think he would be a good fit, but so far it looks like he is a good fit for that role. I think you have some question marks when it comes to that third linebacker position. Jacob Phillips doesn't really look ready. You're not going to put Tay Davis in the regular season game. And Malcolm Smith is a veteran, but he's been up and down ever since his quad injury in 2017. So you have a lot of question marks until you get Mack Wilson back on that third linebacker in that rotation. But for right now, I think they can run a ton of nickel and kind of be serviceable in that area in coverage. So I have to put my hats off to BJ Goodson and Taki because I did not have confidence in them coming into this camp, but leaving this camp, I have a good amount more of confidence in them than I had at the start of it. Another good thing about camp is Baker Mayfield. And I honestly think Baker Mayfield has had a pretty good camp so far. Like, he has improved his footwork. He's looked crisp most of the times. He looks like he's getting a handle on his offense. When he's in rhythm, he's the Baker Mayfield that we all know and love. He's accurate. He can get the ball wherever he wants. He has that amazing arm strength and amazing ball placement skills. Like, that's the Baker Mayfield we all know and love. He's been really good in play action. He's been really good at the top of his drops. He's been really good under center. Sometimes he does get a little bit uncomfortable, right? When nobody gets open after a few seconds, or when he has to pat the ball a couple of times, or maybe when he has to move off his third read and try to look for somebody to make a play. He doesn't want to throw the ball up for grabs as much as he used to. And I think that's honestly a good thing, that he's not making those quick snap bad decisions that he made all camp last year. So I like what I've seen out of Baker Mayfield. It's a Baker Mayfield that makes me think you're going to see less interceptions, more checkdowns, but less interceptions. It's a Baker Mayfield that looks accurate, and it's a Baker Mayfield that looks more lean and athletic. He's been tucking and running more, and when he does tuck and run, he actually looks like an athlete this year, which has not been the case for his first 2 years in Cleveland. I think there's a lot to like about the work that Baker Mayfield has put in this camp. I'm honestly pretty confident in Baker Mayfield's ability to be at the very least serviceable at the beginning of the season, if not good or great. So I feel good about Baker Mayfield. Has he been lighting it up? Has he looked like Patrick Mahomes or Drew Brees in his prime out there? No, but that's not what you're asking Baker Mayfield to do. You don't need Baker Mayfield to be that. You need Baker Mayfield to be somebody who can help this offense move along early on and then maybe make some plays down the field off of play action. For everything they're asking Baker Mayfield to do, he's shown that he's capable of doing it and capable of doing it at a very high level. So I'm pretty confident in Baker Mayfield heading into the season. I think he had a really good camp. Another person who's had a really good camp is Austin Hooper. Now, I know Browns fans usually get some kind of paranoia when it comes to big free agency signings, but since Jarvis worked out, I think that's going down more and more, and I think Austin Hooper's going to be somebody who's going to work out pretty well here. He's been reliable, he's been getting open, he's been making athletic plays. Like, I thought there was going to be a little bit of a gap of athleticism at the tight end position because David Njoku doesn't seem to be making a great push for playing time in this offense, but Austin Hooper and somebody else I'm going to talk about later on in this review have been making athletic plays. He's been getting open. Again, I really like what I see from Austin Hooper. He moves like a wide receiver. He's a very athletic tight end as well as a decent blocker at run and pass situations. So I like what we've seen out of Austin Hooper. I think there's going to be a lot of great things coming from him. Another good thing I think I've seen from this camp is that you've seen a lot of young players stepping up on this team. Nick Harris has had to step in for J.C. Tretter. You know he's been good because you haven't really heard any complaints. You haven't heard any big deals from this guy. I haven't even noticed that he was playing at center for most of the time. I thought it was J.C. Tretter in there mentally because he's been holding it down. He looks like he's going to be a good NFL center, which is a good thing to have in your back pocket for somebody who might be the 6th or 7th offensive lineman that you keep on this roster. So the fact that Nick Harris has been able to step in and you really haven't missed that much of a beat says good things about the future because J.C. Tretter's contract is going to come up soon. It looks like Nick Harris is that natural next step in that evolution. Another young player who stepped up is Donovan Peoples-Jones. And Donovan Peoples-Jones is athletic. He looks bigger. He looks like he doesn't have those catch issues that he did in Michigan. He looks like somebody who 2 years down the line can be a serious contributor to the wide receiver rotation. I think this year might be a little bit early for him to contribute. I think there's guys like Kadero Hodge and Damian Ratley and Rashard Higgins who are going to be able to get that third role and get those snaps instead of Peoples-Jones, who's probably going to contribute in special teams along with Kadero Hodge. So I don't think he's going to contribute much this year, but I don't think that's impossible. I think 2-3 years down the line, you're going to have something real nice in Donovan Peoples-Jones. So a good developmental piece who's shown some real shine throughout this offseason. I couldn't do the good section without talking about the talk of camp. Harrison Bryant has won training camp. He won a position battle in training camp against David Njoku, taking the number 2 tight end spot from him. I'm kind of surprised that he was ready this early. He's been pretty good. He's been athletic. He's versatile. He can play that fullback position. He can block. He can run. He can do a lot of things for this offense. It's going to be really helpful at that second tight end spot. And he's been a reliable catcher of the football. He's done nothing but make plays, and he can make athletic plays as well as the plays that you need to make. But that's enough of the good stuff. What about the bad stuff? So the bad things I notice about the camp are the same bad things that I've noticed about the roster. The interior defensive line has no replacement for Andrew Billings. Andrew Billings was signed to kind of be that run stuffer, that plug in the middle. He opted out for good reasons, and now they don't have a replacement there. They didn't bring anybody in. Mike Daniels went to Cincinnati. They have some decent pieces. I don't think Jordan Elliott's quite ready just yet. But, they have nobody who's going to be able to contribute and do what you asked Andrew Billings to do, at least immediately. So I worry about that. The inside run was a huge problem with this team last year. And really, I don't expect that to be much different unless Sione Takitaki or BJ Goodson have an insane year at the linebacking position. I don't anticipate that happening. I think the secondary is one of the deeper rooms on this roster. I also think the secondary is one of the most inconsistent rooms of this entire camp. Now, they've had a ton of injuries go on, and that's another bad thing in camp is all the injuries, and all those injuries seem to be concentrated in the secondary, right? You got Grant Delpit, torn Achilles. Kevin Johnson gets a lacerated liver. Greedy Williams has hurt his shoulder and missed a good amount of practices. You had Terrence Mitchell out for some time. Carl Joseph has missed a ton of time during camp. A lot of inconsistency, and they haven't had the same grouping of personnel on the field consistently. And I think that's added to a ton of communication errors because, again, if you watch this first team defense at the stadium when they were in that quarter drill, there was just a lot of miscommunication, people not knowing where to be. That was something that concerned me. I think that's going to concern me during the season because like you'll have days where Carl Joseph's out there, but you don't have Sadejo, or you don't have Denzel Ward, or you don't have, Greedy Williams, or you don't have Terrence Mitchell, or you don't have this guy. Just never able to get the starting unit out there consistently enough and just out there as a unit to practice together and communicate with each other, which has been a huge problem and why I think there's going to be a lot of inconsistencies for the secondary during the season, especially during the beginning parts of it. And then my last bad thing about this camp has been David Njoku. He's been a massive disappointment. Somebody who a lot of people were expecting to have a rebound year, a good camp, and really show some people what he's made of in a tight end heavy system. I had questions about his fit. And those questions about his fit seem like legitimate concerns at this point. He's not been able to get on the field much. When he has been able to get on the field, it's been inconsistent. For the most part, it's actually been bad. He has not made a lot of catches. He had a good day at the stadium for a scrimmage, but one good day out of like 13 practices, I'm not going to put too much stock in that one good day. If he stacks some days together, that's a different story, but so far, I have not seen him stack that many days together. So I got to say I'm worried about David Njoku. He has not had a good camp, has lost his second tight end job that he lobbied so hard, requested a trade to keep that spot, and he's already lost it 2 weeks into camp. So you have to worry about David Njoku. He's somebody who's had a massively disappointing camp from a health standpoint and from a production standpoint, and he's somebody who could not afford to have that. So David Njoku definitely on the bad part of this camp list. So what are my final thoughts as the Browns wrap up the public portion of this training camp? My thoughts are that the big pieces on offense look great. Everything else on offense looks okay, looks fine, not bad. And I think especially early on, within the first month and a half of the season, the more this team is forced to rely on the passing game, the more they will look like they're struggling or sputtering, because that part of this offense, it's just not there yet. It's just not done. It's not going to be done in time. You look at this defense, the defense definitely has some holes. They have a secondary that can be great at times, but it's going to be very inconsistent because they've not practiced together. And when they have, they've looked inconsistent. They've not been consistently good. They've not consistently made plays. They've not consistently kind of been the quality of secondary that their roster implies they should be. You have a pass rush that relies, in my opinion, way too much on the production of Myles Garrett, especially when it comes to stopping inside runs. I don't know how much Myles can do in that department. This defense has some rather large holes that are going to be exploited during the season, and it will be frustrating to watch at times. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I think this team is going to be a little bit frustrating to watch within the first month of the season, especially in September, because let's keep in mind, they got 9 practices, and then they have to play Baltimore and turn around on a short week and play Cincinnati. Their first 2 games happen within 10 days of each other, and they have exactly 9 days of practice to prepare for essentially both games. It's not an optimal situation for a team with a new head coach. But what I will say is that keep in mind the top-end talent has looked really good. And that top-end talent might carry them, might be able to get them a few games. Like, the thing that's going to make this Browns team frustrating is that there will be games, like they could walk into M&T Bank Stadium and beat Baltimore, and they might even beat them convincingly. But they're also very capable, due to those same holes that they have on this offense and on this defense, lose to a team like Cincinnati right after that game, or lose to a team like Washington. I guess what I'm trying to say at the end of the day is that this 2020 Browns team is a good team. There's no doubt about it in my mind. They've had a good camp. They look like a good football team, but they're also a flawed football team. If you expect this team to blow teams out like Washington and Cincinnati, you're going to be disappointed. If you're expecting this team to look dominant for any consistent stretch of games early in this season, I'd seriously look at lowering your expectations. But if you're expecting a playoff team that can compete for the division, I honestly think this team is one of the better bets in the NFL. Are they a 15-1, 14-2 team, or even 13-3? No. They're more in that 11-5 ceiling to 9-7 team. That's where the Browns are going to lay at this year. That's the type of quality of team they are. They're a good team. They're a flawed team. There's a bevy of tools. There's a bevy of options on this team that no other team really has. And these tools, these options look a lot better and look more ready than they did last year. There was something wrong with Jarvis and Odell at the end of camp last year. They were injured. They were in and out. You didn't get Kareem Hunt till week 8. You know, Nick Chubb looked great, but he ended up being the only piece that looked great, and that bared fruit. The fact that you have 3 guys looking as good as Nick Chubb did in camp in 2019 says a lot about the talent on this roster. This is a good team with a very, very good roster, but the mold is not done. It looks great, but the mold ain't done. It needs to dry out a little bit. It needs more time in the sun. There will be really frustrating penalty-filled drives or plays where the offensive line doesn't look in sync. There will be things that you see during this season, especially during the beginning part, that look completely unfinished and make you scratch your head. And yes, Baker is still going to throw some bad interceptions here or there. I think they'll be toned down, but they're going to be there. But keep in mind that this team will also have more playmakers on the field than most defenses can contain, and it will be as beautiful as it is frustrating. I'm not sitting here and telling you to be patient and wait for another year. That's not what I'm saying. This team's going to be good this year. I think they've done as good as a job as you can do with this install, given the circumstances that they had. But I also will say that it's not going to be polished for a few months. Like, that's just the reality of the situation they're in. A lot of other NFL teams aren't going to be polished, by the way. A lot of teams are going to have trouble tackling. So it might even itself out at the beginning of the season, but that's the reality of the situation. And what I want Browns fans to do is prepare themselves for some occasional growing pains. I don't think the season's going to be an entire growing pain like last year's was, but there will be some occasional growing pains. There will be some pockets of frustration between moments of brilliance. And that's my takeaway after watching all of these Browns training camp practice. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. But again, guys, thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.